Imagine if each choice you made, no matter how small, was a single thread in an endless tapestry of love, reaching far beyond what the eye can see and touching lives that may never cross your path. The olive grove was still, bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Jesus looked at his disciples, seeing the anticipation and curiosity in their eyes. He took a deep breath and with a gentle smile he began. "There was once a man named Elias," Jesus said, his voice filled with warmth and wisdom. Elias was a humble potter, a quiet man in a village that seemed as small and unremarkable as his life. Yet, within every choice he made, he planted seeds that would grow far beyond what he could see or imagine. The disciples leaned in, captivated by his words. Elias spent his days at his wheel, shaping clay with hands made strong by years of labor. Though his life was simple, he was known for his kindness and a heart that welcomed everyone, from weary travelers to village children who often watched him work with wide-eyed wonder. Elias would smile at them, showing them how the clay moved and shaped under his hands. One misty morning, as he opened his shop, a frail widow entered. She looked at the rows of pots, her hands trembling as she counted out a few small coins. She needed a new water jug but quickly realized she couldn't afford it. Disappointment clouded her face as she turned to leave. But Elias felt a quiet calling within him. He picked up one of his best jugs, gently placing it in her hands. "Take it," he said, smiling. "No need for coins. May it bring you ease." The widow's eyes filled with tears and she clutched the jug to her chest. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Bless you, Elias." And she walked away, carrying not only a jug but a renewed sense of hope and dignity. Elias returned to his wheel, thinking little of the act. Yet this small choice would become the thread that connected countless lives, each one touched by a kindness that began with a single simple gesture. The widow, grateful beyond words, went to the village well to fill her new jug. There she met another woman, Sarah, a young mother holding a sickly child. The boy's face was pale, his eyes dull and unfocused. The widow, reminded of Elias's kindness, felt a stirring in her own heart. She filled a cup from her jug and offered it to Sarah. The young mother, struggling to keep her spirits up, was overwhelmed by the widow's generosity. She gave her son the cool water, watching with relief as he sipped it eagerly. That evening, Sarah returned home to her husband, Levi, a farmer who had grown weary from months of drought and poor harvests. She shared the story of the widow's kindness, and a light kindled in Levi's heart. Inspired by his wife's story, Levi rose before dawn the next morning, choosing to tend to his fields one last time, pouring his remaining energy into the land. And as if in answer, the skies finally opened and rain soaked the earth. Levi's crops flourished, and the fields yielded a harvest greater than any the village had seen in years. A week later, Levi and Sarah hosted a grand feast to celebrate the bounty, inviting the entire village. People came from all around, bringing their families, laughing and sharing stories by the firelight. Elias attended the feast, watching with quiet joy as the village came together, feeling a sense of unity and gratitude that hadn't been present in years. Though Elias did not know it, his small act of kindness to the widow had been the spark that set this joyous night into motion. He saw Levi and Sarah laughing with their son, now healthy and vibrant, running and playing with the other children. He noticed the widow he had helped, her spirit visibly lifted. He smiled, content to see their happiness. As the years passed, Elias continued his work, always welcoming those in need, sharing whatever he had. His reputation for kindness spread, reaching even distant towns. One day, a wealthy merchant, hearing of Elias's skill, traveled from the city to visit his shop. As he entered, the merchant was struck by the beauty and care evident in each piece. The merchant, used to haggling and bargaining, felt something shift in his heart as he watched Elias work. For the first time, he was moved by the sincerity and humility in Elias's presence. He bought all the pots Elias had, and before leaving he placed a large order, paying him generously. With this sudden wealth, Elias could have lived comfortably, but instead he used it to help his village. He built a new communal well closer to the village center, so that people would no longer have to walk far for water. It became a gathering place where villagers exchanged stories, strengthened friendships, and deepened their sense of community. Elias used the remaining funds to build a small school. For the first time, the village children had a place to learn. Among these children was Jethro, an orphan boy often seen wandering alone. Noticing the boy's quiet sadness, Elias took Jethro under his wing, teaching him not only the craft of pottery but also the values of patience and kindness. "Every pot, Jethro, has a purpose," Elias would say, shaping a lump of clay into a simple cup. "And so do we. Each choice we make is like this cup. It may seem small, but in the right hands it can hold blessings for others." Jethro listened carefully, his heart warming as Elias continued to teach him. Over time, the young boy grew into a skilled potter, but more importantly, he carried Elias's spirit of kindness and humility. Years passed, and Jethro, now a young man, began helping others as Elias had once helped him. When a family in the village lost their home to a fire, Jethro rallied the villagers to gather supplies and rebuild it. The family, deeply moved, invited everyone to a celebration, offering food and drink as thanks for their support. At the gathering, Elias and Jethro sat together, watching the villagers laugh and talk as children played nearby. Elias felt a quiet pride, knowing that his life had been a blessing to others. Jethro, inspired by his mentor's example, continued the tradition of kindness, becoming a beloved figure in the village. The influence of Elias's kindness reached even further. One day, a young couple named Miriam and Jacob came to Elias, hoping to buy some pots for their wedding. They had saved for years to marry, and their funds were modest. Seeing their hopeful faces, Elias offered them a beautiful set of pots as a gift. Miriam and Jacob were touched beyond words, and with Elias's encouragement, they decided to open a small bakery. The bakery became a beloved spot in the village. Miriam and Jacob, following Elias's example, offered bread and pastries to those who couldn't afford to pay. During a particularly harsh winter, when many villagers struggled to make ends meet, the bakery provided warmth, food, and a sense of refuge. The villagers gathered there, sharing stories and laughter even as they faced difficult times together. As Elias aged, his health began to decline, but his spirit remained strong. He would sit outside his shop, watching the village he had helped shape. Travelers and merchants continued to visit, drawn by the stories of kindness that filled the air. People would leave the village inspired, spreading tales of the place where compassion flowed like water, and generosity was as abundant as the harvest. One evening, as Elias lay in his bed, the villagers he had touched throughout his life gathered to pay their respects. Jethro sat by his side, holding his hand, tears glistening in his eyes. The widow, the young mother, the farmer, the merchant, Miriam and Jacob, all were there, each one carrying a story of how Elias had changed their lives. Elias smiled, his eyes shining with gratitude. "Thank you, all of you," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "I only did what felt right." The villagers, overcome with emotion, held each other close, each one understanding that they were part of a legacy of kindness that stretched far beyond their small village. They knew that they would carry Elias's spirit with them, sharing his story and passing on the love he had given. In his final moments, Elias felt a deep peace, knowing his life had touched so many others. And as he closed his eyes, his spirit returned to the one who had guided his heart. Jesus finished his story, and his disciples sat in quiet reflection, moved by the life of Elias. Jesus looked at them with love, his voice gentle yet filled with authority as he spoke his final words. "Do you see now, my friends? Every choice, no matter how small, is a seed planted. Each act of kindness is woven into God's grand design. You may never see the full harvest, but trust that it is abundant. Your lives, too, are threads in this tapestry, carrying blessings to those you may never meet." The disciples, hearts full of purpose, rose from that place, inspired to carry Elias's spirit of kindness into the world. They understood that their own small acts, each choice of love and compassion, could shape futures, connect hearts, and create a legacy of love that would stretch across generations. And with each step they took, they knew they were part of God's eternal story, where even the smallest choice could change the world. This is end of the story. Comment amen if you believe in Jesus' blessings. Please like this video and subscribe this channel for more Jesus story like this. May the God watch over you.